The other thing in this public transport space is this report from the Federal Auditor-General into the federal government's 2019 election promise for all those new railway station car parks. Now, the federal opposition's calling it sports rorts on steroids. It's a pretty damning Auditor-General's report. Now, most of the car park projects were to be in Liberal-held seats. 30 of the 47 car parks in Victoria, 25 were to be in Liberal-held seats, and they were ticked off and announced, even though bureaucrats had said to the minister, I don't know how much they'll cost. I don't know where we can put them. We don't know much about this space. We're really not terribly involved at all. Don't know if they're chosen on merit. On the line for his reaction on both those issues, Tony Morton, President of the Public Transport Users Association. Thanks for your time this afternoon, Tony.
Good day, Heidi.
Do you reckon the discount fares have been successful to date?
Well, I think we are seeing more people travel in those off-peak periods, and there's certainly more of an encouragement to do so. Since we are in a pandemic, and people want to spread out their travel so that you don't have too much crowding on public transport. It's obviously not something we want. We also, of course, have the mandatory mask wearing, which we can see as a useful measure. But it's also important that we just spread things out so that people are actually able to get around and not get stuck so much in traffic, but to do so in a COVID-safe way.
I know we've had that free before 7 a.m. early bird travel for quite some time. Not many people know about it. Is it a similar thing with the off-peak fares, that people don't necessarily know about it, that there isn't a big advertising campaign around it, that it isn't shouted?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you find there are subpopulations of people that do actually know quite a bit about it. I think a lot of tradies have discovered that free early bird travel is really great for getting to site out at sunrise and getting there easily. But I don't know that the general community could be made more aware both of that and the off-peak travel discount. But it's certainly something that we support happening on an ongoing basis, at least until we can find out, and when things do settle down post-COVID eventually, who knows when that is, and we actually see whether peak hour is even a thing anymore.
Yeah, you think peak hour may not return. Peak hour, the crammed onto the public transport. You think those days are gone completely?
Well, what I think what we're finding is that a lot of that office-based commuting that was driving those very heavy peak hour loads is going to reduce. Not because people don't go into the office anymore, but because they're going into the office a fewer number of days each week.
Or they're driving in, or some are probably cycling in. Yes.
Yeah, and they're working from home a couple of days a week, and that does mean that ideally it means that you've got fewer people on public transport and fewer people on the roads in those at those peak times.
I think I reckon it's just a no-brainer. It should be a permanent thing.
Well, yes, I think anything that spreads the load over the transport system over the day, so that it's less peaked at particular times and more spread through the day. It's better for everyone, because it means that the overall traffic and crowding levels are a bit more tolerable.
Now, tell me, were you ever a fan of the car parking program of the coalition, the federal coalition, last election?
Yeah, I think we just took a look at the cost figures for some of these car parks, and they were just unreal. You were looking at spending far more on an individual car parking space than most people would spend on a car, and when you're talking about spending these amounts of money, you do wonder, well, wouldn't it be cheaper to look at some alternatives that are more useful for people? For example, maybe we for the millions of dollars it costs to build a car park for maybe one train carriage worth of people, you could buy a couple of electric buses and you could hire some drivers for the same amount of money, and they could be driving around providing a frequent feeder bus service along the roads leading into the train station. People could actually, instead of having to jump in their car as the first thing thing they do when they want to use public transport to go somewhere. They could actually just walk to the end of their street and catch a bus and get to the station and jump on a train. And it's a public transport solution for getting people onto public transport.
Yeah, being too clever now, Tony. Thank you for your time. Tony Morton there, President of the Public Transport Users Association. Yeah, some of the cost estimates that came out on those car parks, $26,000 for some of them, up to $39,000 for some of them. The top one was, I think, Berwick, $115,000 per space, per car parking space for those train station car parks. It was a big pledge. It was clearly designed to win some votes in some seats, but it reminds me of the local Auditor General's report into the local solar scheme from the 2018 election that found similarly, costings, who cares? Doing business cases, whatever. We'll sort it out later. And you and I, the taxpayer, we're left just being the Muppets on it.